richer people are smarter. I'm sorry to use those words. 70% of the houses there have inverter. During the daytime, they don't run on electricity. Because in my sister's house, it's a rule. You turn off electricity during the daytime. The fridge, the freezer runs on inverter. It's 4 o'clock in the evening, 4:30, they turn off their inverter. So that's when they start to run on electricity. So they realize that these rich people they wanted to take advantage of, they are not making the money from them. They realize we run on electricity. You can count the number of houses in my area, Shoji. And that have inverter. The ones that even have is the small one that cannot carry fridge, that only carry fan and AC. So during the day, we are running AC, we are running fridge, we are running freezer, we are running electric cooking stove. So they realize that it's easier to make money from people in Oshodi, Surulere, and that's why they have now upgraded those people to band A. Those richer people, they're smarter.
This is SOUQ Business Landscape.
The federal government has proposed a 3.6 trillion naira deduction from the Federation account to fund electricity subsidies between 2026 and 2028 in a move aimed at spreading the burden across federal, state, and local government. Now, the proposal was outlined in the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for 2026 to 2028. The planned deduction marks a decisive shift in how electricity subsidies are financed, as mounting arrears have strained liquidity across Nigeria's power sector by making subsidy obligations explicit in fiscal planning. The government aims to improve transparency and address long-standing inefficiencies that have undermined investor confidence and sector sustainability. Analysts say the approach reflects growing concern over unsustainable nature of electricity subsidy debt and their impact on public finances. While the cost-sharing framework could ease pressure on federal finances, it may also reduce net allocations to subnational government, raising questions about fiscal flexibility, service delivery, and political buy-in at state and local level. Starting with you, Swift. I like that last statement, political buy-in by state.
Okay.
Before now, like yesterday, like 2 years ago, states should have already been investing in power generation distribution and all that. Now with this, don't forget some states are still owing civil servants. And so if you now deduct certain amount from the allocation,
yes.
When more people suffer, what do you think? How do you see states reacting to this?
And so I think for now, the truth is you can't continue to feed, or you can't continue to babysit an adult. It gets to a stage in a child's life when you hit 18, you hit 21, you hit 16 in some countries, you tell the child that, look, you need to become responsible. Even if you are living under my roof, you need to pay for water, you need to do the laundry, you need to mow the lawn. And this is what the federal government is trying to say to states. Why? If this happens, states will start to look inwards. Yesterday, we were talking about the responsibility of the local government and the federal government. There are a lot of monies within states that people look away from. So, for example, when it comes to cashew production, there were certain states. So, back in the day, we had states that had the pyramids, for example, of granules. And nowadays, they are still selling a lot of granules. They are even still exporting granules, but they are not in the books. People just turn away and look away from it. We have states that are not on the list that they export cashew, whereas we have states that are on the list that they export cashew. By the time you need to pay for certain things by the federal government, you will start to notice that local government states will now start to look inwards, like what Lagos did. Every state has the capability. When Lagos did it, a lot of other APCs, they started replicating. We saw it in Oyo. We saw it in Edo. Edo was one state that was almost mainly civil service. But when Oshomole came in, he started to dualize roads. For the first time in the history of Edo, there were 6 lanes. And businesses started picking up. They started taxation. They started to tax business. They started to encourage business. And right now, if you look at the revenue of Edo State, from when Lucky Binedion was there, to when Obaseki was there, to when right now that the governor Okpebolo is sitting, the indexes are showing. Why? Because they started to look inwards. People are even still complaining that there are things in Edo that are not being taken, advantage of, like rubber that they have always had, Gary and all that. Oil, if you start to look inwards again, we are looking at Okomu Oil is one of the strongest traders on FX right now, and their stock has been steady. Edo State is one of the states that produces some of the best palm fruits, palm trees, palm kernel. We have NIFO Research Center there that was rumored that Malaysia came and took seedlings from there, and Malaysia is now one of the biggest palm oil growing nations and the export, and that's one of the things their country sustains on. So imagine if Edo State decides to look inwards and turns a particular community into oil production, and instead of Okomu, they now start to fight Okomu and become Edo State oil producing company. There will be a lot of money. So the federal government is doing the right thing. It's time to push states. We also saw when the Tinubu administration came up with the fact that state governments, you should now get your derivation according to what we bring in. We saw a lot of northern states kick against that and twist the federal government. A lot of people said some things, there's insecurity in their states and blah, blah, blah. And it got to 30%. Imagine if it's a 70%, people will sit up. States like Bayelsa, where they have a lot of revenue, their revenue from the federal government is higher than that of Lagos State. And Bayelsa is barely bigger than Iyanokpaja community. And so that money is going into Bayelsa and it's not even half as developed as Lagos. Now imagine if the federal government is withdrawing that and telling Bayelsa State, look inwards, what do you have? Produce what you have. Guess what? There will be more development because they will know that there has to be road networks, there has to be buildings, there has to be schools, they have to attract outside investors. So I think it's a way of the federal government saying, you have been home, baby. You're not doing anything. It's time for you to sit up. It's time for you to take the bull by the horn. And this is very good. But they should also, apply kids' gloves to it so that you don't push certain states that are fully, dependent on or civil service states like Ekiti. These poorer states, you need to be very cautious too as you are pushing them out there. That's my take.
All right. So, coming to you, Motal, do you think this plan will finally, fix the power puzzle in Nigeria?
He's not going to fill the power puzzle in Nigeria, but it's a temporary fix. Two things. A lot of Nigerians has clamored that the improved FAC allocation is not reflecting in their lives. And if government is now subsidizing electricity for the same citizens across board, I think that's the way the government is saying, okay, this is your share of the improved FAC allocation that every household is going to feel. So, and secondly, it is a temporary fix and a test run for the tariffs to see where the people want it to be. When this subsidy kicks in, we'll see what the response will be. We'll see if people will, because in my own opinion, we've not reached a place where we have an accepted tariff. Right now, the discos are complaining that they've not been charging a cost-reflective tariff. That they've not been running on profits. And the consumers, a lot of the consumers are complaining that electricity is too expensive compared to income. So if this subsidy comes in, we'll see how that pan out. We'll see what the reaction will be. And then we can start working on how we can generate electricity at a rate where it is fair to the consumers and the discos. I understand that a lot of our generating and distributing technology is very old. And I want to believe that more recent and newer technology will generate better, reliable, and cheaper electricity. The recent time, we'll see how solar electricity generation, experts have analyzed that is now cheaper than the national grid. So we need to look at a more robust system that can take advantage of all the sources of energy that we have, from gas to solar and then the hydro. So we need to have a more hybrid system. It's time we stop relying heavily just on hydro. Up north, we should see a lot of solar farm. In Lagos, the federal government is test running a solar farm with Unilag is going to be laid, the solar panels are going to be laid on the lagoon by Third Milan Bridge. So we want to see how that pans out. We want to see all of that. But I'm excited to see the citizens finally enjoying from the tripled FAC allocation, because everybody is bearing the brunt of the subsidy removal from the petroleum products. And everybody has been complaining that they've not been seeing the tripled FAC allocation. So if this is properly implemented, I believe every household is finally going to get something from petroleum subsidy removal.
Okay, so now I'd like to ask this question also. If states are now responsible to pay for their electricity, don't you think that consumers might indirectly end up paying for that?
I don't get the question. State is not paying for it.
If it is being shared, the subsidy is being shared, don't you think that somehow the states might want to get that back from us?
Everything in this country is paid for by the people. Everything, the federal government or the state government, it's our commonwealth. The money did not come from any, because like they say, if the government finds a gun or drugs in your backyard, it belongs to you. When they find oil, it belongs to the government. Yeah, so whoever is in SOUQ did not bring any land from anywhere. The lands that generates the crude oil belongs to different communities. And because there's crude oil on it, it belongs to the federal government. And that is where the Commonwealth comes from. And, of course, our taxes. So we pay for everything.
That's where I'm going. Don't you think they might raise taxes to shore up that?
I don't think they are going to raise taxes.
Locally, state.
I don't think they are going to raise taxes. I just think that, the long and short of it is that FAC allocation has not reflected in everyday Nigeria. Whether it's Lagos, whether it's anywhere, it has not reflected.
No.
It has not reflected. Because in my own opinion, even BRT, which is the state-owned mass transit, is still very, very expensive. In a state where minimum wage is about 100,000, an average return trip in Lagos on BRT is about 3,000, 2,000 plus. So if you calculate it for 30 days or even 20 weekdays, it's still very, very expensive. In my own opinion, BRT should not be more than 500 naira on return trip. That means 250, 300 naira per trip. That is what is going to be fair if your minimum wage is 100,000 naira. In my own opinion.
Just a quick, is BRT a subsidized form of transportation or just a means of transportation?
It used to be. Sorry, can I?
It's meant to be a state-owned mass transit bus like BRT is supposed to be a subsidized form of transportation, but it's not subsidized. And in my own opinion, I believe if BRT is properly run, BRT can still deliver very affordable transportation without government subsidizing. How do I think this will be paid for? Every BRT carried adverts. Everybody knows, people in advertisement or their own businesses know that on each bus, averagely on a month, is 500,000 to put your advert on it. I believe that 500,000 can pay for a lot of the overhead of a bus in a month. Now, they have TVs in those BRT, and there are adverts that run on it. I know even musicians pay to advertise their music on those screens. They charge them up to 1 million naira a month for one song. And I don't know how many artists promote their song every month on those screens. On BRT. So that is extra income. But I think the system that they are running is PPE, which is there's a
public-private. Yes, that's what I was about to say.
So there is a private participation, and that is where the cost components come in. And in my own opinion, I think the transportation like BRT is as important as the road that we are building, because the majority of the population does not own a car, so they don't directly enjoy the road. It's like we are building the road for the elites. So if we say, we have capital project and it's 60%, and we are supposed to applaud the government that they are investing in infrastructure. But the question is, who enjoys the infrastructure? Is the elite, not the everyday people. What the everyday people enjoy is services like BRT and in my own opinion, it should be very affordable. I don't subscribe or I don't advocate for free services, but it should be fair when we look at the minimum wage and we calculate transportation. Transportation should not be taking more than 10% or 15% of the minimum wage. And that will put average trip on BRT to be about 300 naira or 250 naira per trip. And again, I'd like to point out that fuel prices has reduced over the last few months. We started from about 1,200. Now we're around 750, 800, 820. But the cost is not reflecting in BRT service. And this is a government service. And government...
What about the yellow buses? Does it reflect?
Yellow buses, they are private. So that's where I'm going. So government service...
BRT is private. It's private government partnership. So there's more of
it's
private.
Not supposed to
yes.
be. It's not supposed
yes. So
to
that's
be.
where I actually wanted to come
to. It's not supposed. It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be something that is profit driven. In my own opinion, I would rather have government shift private partnership to services that the elite benefit, like the Lekki-Ikoyi link bridge. The private people can privatize, you can play in those places. Like Lekki, like the VR, you can put highways, you can put tolls, you can even put congestion tolls in some of the commercial centers for private cars. But when it comes to public transport like BRT, I don't expect to see private people playing in that place. If the private are going to be playing, maybe they are just leasing cars to the government, and government is paying back to them. But the BRT system, there are so many ways private can play without it being all about profit. It should not be profit driven. It should be service delivery to move people from a point to the other so that the economy of the state can move.
All right. So coming to you, SOUQ,
yes.
One of the things we are not looking at also, if the federal government and subnationals now have to share this cost, won't that crowd out other things like health, education? What do you think?
So where I'm coming from the cost and where the federal government is looking at is people have been saying, look, many times federal government takes loans from World Bank in tune of millions. And what do they say? They say they are giving out monies to the less privileged, to the families, and we don't see those monies. I don't see myself as a billionaire. I think the federal government is giving out 50K to anybody every month. I should be on the list. But guess what? I am never on the list. The teacher that earns 40K, 50K is not on the list. The carpenter on the street is not on the list. So people are saying, can you stop giving out funds and cooking in primary school and let us see the money for subsidy of electricity, subsidy of road network. Let us see this for subsidy of hospitals. And that's what the federal government is saying. The federal government is saying, look, we are going, instead of putting in monies for the less privileged, let us subsidize electricity. So for example, the 20,000 naira for the vulnerable Nigerians every month that is making up, that is coming to billions. You are hearing 500 billion and all that. Let it be put into electricity. So instead of me paying 10,000 a month or 20,000 loading, there's a bit of subsidy and I pay 10 instead of 20. It makes a lot of sense because I'm also a vulnerable Nigerian. Yes, that's the truth. So that's what people... Vulnerable? Oh, trust me, I am vulnerable. So that's what people are saying. Now, when you talk about the BRT system, sometimes you don't blame the Lagos State government. The Lagos State government was managing the BRT system on their own, but we saw how the buses started to go crazy. It became an embarrassment because sometimes when you hand over things to government officials, I don't know why, maybe it's the lackadaisical attitude in Nigeria, maybe because we don't have strict rules like, okay, if a BRT is not well taken care of, you are the driver and you know you should be jailed. No, there's no consequence. I think in Nigeria when you mess things up, because there's no consequence, you can just walk away that time. You know, there's nothing is coming out of it. And so they had to privatize. At the point when they privatized, it was a lot because they took out BRTs from certain lanes. So, for example, the BRTs going to Aja, just returning now. It was during Ambode's time, and they literally sold those BRTs, that particular route, to a particular church. That church, I remember how tough it was because I was living in Lekki Aja at that point. That church stopped carrying passengers, and they were already carrying their church members. In fact, at that point, you had to tie your hair and form that you are a member of the church before they get to carry you. And this increased the transportation from that route. So this administration, I can see they are trying to bring it back, because the last time I was at the BRT park, they said, okay, they are now applying Aja, and they are trying to see how it is. And from, Obalende to Aja is about 700 naira, which is cheaper than the 1,005 that the other buses are carrying, which is a good one. But like we said, the federal government needs to do more. Like you said, there are so many things they can do on the BRT. There's advertising on the BRT. Everybody wants, because once your face or your brand is on the BRT, I've never seen a BRT. I don't know any BRT bus that I see empty. There are always brands on it. Over 300 buses with brands that are being paid for every 2 weeks, every month. So I think that's enough money. So people, these are the things Lagosians need to protest about. These are the things we need to get on social media and talk about. Not Davido did not win Grammy. At this point, no, that's the truth. Because these are the things that affect us personally. Yes. We should start to talk about health. We should start to talk about the BRT system. Why is it not cheaper? We should hold our government responsible. We should also talk about, now we are saying we want to subsidize for electricity. Can we see how much is being sent? Can we know on how much? Yes, you are subsidizing for band A, band B, band C. If not, you will see a lot of money coming. They will say they are subsidizing, and they will say it's 1,000 naira. Whereas in the books, you will hear that they are subsidizing as much as 50,000 per household. So these are the conversations we need to have, and we need to hold the government responsible. And for now, the government is listening. Why? There's a new layer of election. This is the point where you can hold them by the bulls. And so holding them means that we need to have this conversation and be very intentional about it.
All right, so last one, Motolami, do you think we'll eventually see, subsidized electricity? I should expect, 10,000 naira will get you 22 units on band A. Do you think we'll see a reduction in that? Or so maybe 10,000 naira will get you 44 units or thereabouts?
So that's another question. So it depends on how the Minister of Power and the Minister for Economic Planning wants to deploy this subsidy, because they might decide to say they are not subsidizing band A and they want to subsidize the other bands. So that would, I believe in the next couple of days or weeks, they will roll out how they intend to implement this subsidy. But it's a welcome development. Subsidy is not bad as long as it can be monitored and the system is not stealing the money, because that is what we saw in the petroleum products. And so that is what.
But if you say subsidized electricity, I think you should cut across, because even the band A, band B, you don't even get to choose. I was on band B. All of a sudden, I loaded my meter and I found out that it was lesser, and I did a bit fear engagement, and I found out that we've been upgraded to band A without our consent. So if we're talking about subsidized electricity, I think it should cut across. It should not be segregated to some certain areas or thereabout. I live in Surulere, which is relatively for the working class, not the elite.
I hear you, but I'm only suggesting. I'm not saying.
No, because you were sounding like you're part of the minister's team. He said when they sit down, I said, oh, wow, okay, let's see something.
I'm only suggesting. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Oh, but sorry, I wanted to say something. So if you notice in Lekki, for example, this electricity, they downgraded people on the island to brand B. They have brought them down to brand
B. In Lekki?
Yes,
wow.
They brought them down. Now, let me tell you why. Because richer people are smarter. I'm sorry to use those words. 70% of the houses there have inverter. During the daytime, they don't run on electricity. Because in my sister's house, it's a rule. You turn off electricity during the daytime. The fridge, the freezer runs on inverter. It's 4 o'clock in the evening, 4:30, they turn off their inverter. So that's when they start to run on electricity. So they realize that these rich people they wanted to take advantage of, they are not making the money from them. They realize we run on electricity. You can count the number of houses in my area, Shodi, that have inverter. The ones that even have is the small one that cannot carry fridge, that only carry fan and AC. So during the day, we are running AC, we are running fridge, we are running freezer, we are running electric cooking stove. So they realize that it's easier to make money from people in Oshodi, Surulere, and that's why they have now upgraded those people to band A. Those richer people, they're smarter.